So here's the problem. Look up at the sky tonight. Go ahead, pick a clear night. Get away from the city lights if you can. You see all those stars? There are about 200 billion stars in our galaxy. 200 billion. That's more stars than there are people on Earth. And most of these stars we now know have planets around them. Not just one or two planets, multiple planets. We've detected thousands of them already with our telescopes, and we're just getting started. Now let me ask you something. Out of all those billions of stars, with all those billions of planets, how many do you think might have conditions suitable for life? Think about it for a second. Even if you're really pessimistic and you say, well, maybe only 1 in a million stars has a planet where life could exist, that's still 200,000 planets right there in our galaxy alone. 200,000 chances for life to get started. But here's where it gets interesting. Our sun is about 4.5 billion years old. That sounds like a long time, right? But the galaxy is much older. The galaxy is somewhere around 10 billion years old, maybe more. So there are stars out there that are 5 billion, 6 billion years older than our sun. If life developed on planets around those stars the same way it developed here, they'd have a 5 billion year head start on us. 5 billion years. Do you have any idea what we could accomplish with a 5 billion year head start? Think about our own civilization. We've had radio technology for what, 100 years? 120 years? That's nothing, a blink. And look what we've done. We went from Marconi's first radio transmission to landing on the moon in less than 70 years, from no flight at all to walking on another world. So what could a civilization do with an extra billion years, or 5 billion? They should be everywhere, yeah, right? They should have colonized the galaxy by now, even if they traveled slowly, even if they could only manage, say, 1% the speed of light, which doesn't sound like much, but it's still incredibly fast by our standards. They could cross the entire galaxy in, what, 10 million years. That's nothing on a cosmic time scale. It's barely a moment. And once they get to a new star system, they set up a colony, and that colony sends out more ships, and those colonies send out more ships. And pretty soon, boom, the whole galaxy is filled with them. So here's my question. Where are they? Where is everybody? This is what Enrico Fermi asked back in 1950. He was having lunch with some colleagues at Los Alamos, and they were talking about flying saucers and space travel. And Fermi suddenly says, where is everybody? Just like that. Simple question. Devastating question. Because if there are aliens out there, we should see some sign of them by now. We should detect their radio signals. We should see evidence of their engineering projects. Maybe they're building these enormous structures around their stars to capture all the energy. These things we call Dyson spheres. Or maybe they left behind probes, little robotic explorers checking out every star system, or old mining equipment, or something, anything. But we see nothing. We hear nothing. The galaxy is silent, completely silent. Now, let me tell you, people have come up with all sorts of explanations for this. Some of them are pretty good. Some of them are terrible. Let's go through a few, and you tell me what you think. Explanation number one, we're alone. We're the only intelligent life in the galaxy, maybe even in the universe. Life is incredibly rare. Maybe the jump from simple chemistry to self-replicating molecules is so unlikely that it only happened once. Or maybe life gets started okay. But the jump from single-celled organisms to complex life is the hard part. Or maybe complex life evolves all the time. But intelligence is rare. Maybe it took some kind of incredible fluke for intelligence to evolve on Earth, and it just doesn't happen anywhere else. What do you think of that? It's possible. We only have one example of life in the universe, and that's us. So we can't really say how likely or unlikely it is. But I'll tell you what bothers me about this explanation. The universe is really, really big. There are not just billions of stars in our galaxy. There are billions of galaxies, hundreds of billions of galaxies, each with hundreds of billions of stars. That's a lot of chances for life to get started. To say that it only happened once here on this particular rock orbiting this particular star, that seems like a pretty special claim. And in physics, we're always suspicious of claims that were special. Usually when something seems special, it's because we don't understand it yet. Okay, explanation number two. Life is common, but intelligent life isn't. Maybe the galaxy is teeming with bacteria and algae and maybe even fish and trees, but nothing that builds radio telescopes. Maybe intelligence doesn't give you much of a survival advantage. After all, we're the only species on Earth that developed technology, and there have been billions of species over billions of years. Maybe intelligence is like the peacock's tail. It's flashy, but it doesn't necessarily help you survive. Maybe most life stays simple. That's interesting, but it still doesn't quite satisfy me, because even if intelligence is rare, with all those billions of planets, you'd think there would be at least a few other intelligent species out there. And if there are even a handful, even a dozen intelligent civilizations in the galaxy, we should have noticed them by now if they've been around for millions or billions of years. All right, here's another one. Explanation 3. Intelligence is common, but technological civilizations don't last very long. Maybe once you develop nuclear weapons or advanced artificial intelligence or whatever it is, you destroy yourself. Maybe there's some kind of filter, some barrier that civilizations can't get past. We got through the Cold War without blowing ourselves up, but maybe we were just lucky. Maybe most civilizations aren't so lucky. This is a grim possibility. Carl Sagan was very worried about this. He thought that the key question for the Drake equation, this formula people use to estimate how many alien civilizations there might be, was L, the lifetime of a technological civilization. If civilizations typically destroy themselves within 100 years of developing radio, then there just aren't many of them around at any given time. The galaxy might have been full of civilizations over its lifetime, but they blink on and off so quickly that they rarely overlap in time. What do I think of that? Well, it's certainly possible, but it seems a bit pessimistic to me. Here we are, we've had nuclear weapons for 80 years now, and we haven't used them to destroy ourselves yet. We've come close, sure, but we haven't done it. Maybe most civilizations figure out how to survive their dangerous adolescent phase. Maybe we're not so unusual in that regard. Okay, here's a different kind of explanation. Maybe the aliens are out there, but they're not interested in talking to us. Maybe they're deliberately staying quiet. There's this idea called the zoo hypothesis. Maybe advanced civilizations have some kind of policy of not interfering with younger civilizations, like a cosmic non-interference directive, if you've ever watched Star Trek. They're watching us, but they're not making contact because they want to let us develop on our own. Or here's a creepier version. Maybe staying quiet is a survival strategy. There's this idea called the dark forest hypothesis. The universe is like a dark forest, and every civilization is a hunter hiding behind a tree. You don't make noise because if you do, someone might find you and destroy you. So everyone stays silent, listening but not transmitting. These are interesting ideas, but they have a problem. They assume that every single civilization follows the same strategy. Every single one, because it only takes one civilization that doesn't follow the rules to break the silence. One civilization that decides to colonize the galaxy, or broadcast messages, or build giant structures. And with potentially thousands or millions of civilizations out there, you think they'd all make the same choice? That seems unlikely to me. Let me give you another possibility, and this one I find kind of interesting. Maybe we're not looking for the right things. We're searching for radio signals because that's what we know how to detect. But think about it. We've only had radio technology for about 100 years. Already we're moving past it. We use fiber optics now, laser communication, tightly focused beams that don't leak into space. Maybe advanced civilizations discovered radio, used it for a while, and then moved on to something better, something that doesn't leak electromagnetic radiation all over the galaxy. So there's this brief window, maybe 100 years, maybe 200 years, where a civilization is detectable by radio. After that, they go quiet, not because they destroyed themselves, but because they upgraded their technology. If that's true, then the galaxy could be full of civilizations, all talking to each other using methods we haven't discovered yet. And we're sitting here listening to the radio, hearing nothing, and thinking we're alone. There's another version of this. Maybe we're looking at the wrong places. We're searching for Earth-like planets because that's what we know. But maybe life doesn't need an Earth-like planet. Maybe it can exist in completely different environments that we haven't even thought of. On rogue planets floating through space, in the atmospheres of gas giants, in the subsurface oceans of moons. Maybe intelligence can exist in forms we wouldn't even recognize. Maybe there's a whole ecosystem of life based on completely different chemistry, and we're looking right past it because we don't know what to look for. Now, I want to talk about something that really bothers me about this whole question, and it's this. We're asking, where are the aliens? As if we would necessarily recognize them if we saw them. But think about what that assumes. It assumes that an alien civilization, especially one that's millions or billions of years ahead of us, would build things and do things and communicate in ways that we can understand. That seems like a pretty big assumption. Let me give you an analogy. Imagine you're an ant. You're walking around on the ground doing ant things, and you walk across a computer circuit board. Do you recognize it as technology? Do you understand that it's a designed object made by an intelligent being? No. To you, it's just terrain. It's just stuff. You don't have the cognitive framework to recognize it as technology. Now, are we like the ant? Is there alien technology all around us that we just don't recognize as technology because it's so far beyond our understanding? I don't know. It's possible. It's humbling to think about. Here's something else to consider. We're looking for electromagnetic signals, right? Radio, optical, that sort of thing. But electromagnetic radiation travels at the speed of light, and space is really, really big. The nearest star to us is 4 light years away. That means if someone on a planet around that star sent us a message, it would take 4 years to get here. And if we sent a reply, it would take another 4 years to get back. That's an 8-year round trip just to say hello to our nearest neighbor. Most stars are much farther away, hundreds or thousands of light years. Even if there's a civilization out there that's been broadcasting for 10,000 years, their signals have only reached a tiny fraction of the galaxy. And our signals? We've only been broadcasting for about 100 years. Our signals have reached maybe a few hundred star systems. That's nothing. We're basically just starting to make noise. So maybe the galaxy is full of civilizations, but they're all too far apart to have noticed each other yet. Maybe we're like ships passing in the night, all of us calling out, but none of us close enough to hear the others. Or maybe, and this is my favorite possibility, we're early. Maybe we're actually one of the first intelligent civilizations in the galaxy. The universe is about 14 billion years old, but stars are still forming. Galaxies are still evolving. Maybe the conditions for life and intelligence are better now than they were in the past. Maybe in the early universe, there were too many supernovae, too much radiation, too much chaos for complex life to survive. Maybe we're in the first generation of intelligent life in the universe. Maybe in another billion years, the galaxy will be full of civilizations. But right now, we're the pioneers. I like that idea. It's optimistic. It means the silence isn't because we're alone or because civilizations destroy themselves. It's just because we're early to the party. But here's the thing. We don't know. We really don't know. And that's okay. That's actually exciting because it means we have work to do. We have experiments to run, observations to make. We can actually answer this question, not by philosophizing, not by guessing, but by looking. We're building better telescopes. We're finding more exoplanets every year. We're starting to be able to analyze their atmospheres, to look for signs of life, not just intelligent life, but any life. Oxygen in an atmosphere, methane, organic molecules. If we find even bacteria on Mars or in the oceans of Europa or anywhere else in our solar system, that tells us something important. It tells us life isn't that rare. And if life isn't rare, maybe intelligence isn't either. And we're still listening. SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, is still going. They're scanning the skies, listening for signals. Maybe they'll find something. Maybe they won't. But the important thing is we're looking. You know what I think the Fermi paradox really teaches us? It teaches us humility. It reminds us how much we don't know. We like to think we understand the universe pretty well. But when it comes to life, to intelligence, to the probability of civilizations arising and surviving and spreading across the galaxy, we're really just guessing. We have one data point, one, and you can't draw a curve through one point. So the next time someone asks you, where are the aliens? You can tell them, we don't know. Maybe they're everywhere and we just haven't recognized them. Maybe they're rare and far away. Maybe we're early. Maybe we're alone. Maybe there's some explanation we haven't even thought of yet. But here's what we do know. We know how to look. We know how to ask better questions, and we know that the universe is big enough and strange enough that the answer, when we find it, is going to surprise us. And that's the wonderful thing about science. We get to find out. We get to be the generation that discovers whether we're alone or not. How amazing is that? How incredibly lucky are we to be alive at a time when we can actually answer this question. So go out tonight, look at the stars, think about all those planets out there, and wonder, because the answer is out there somewhere, and someday, maybe soon, we're going to find it.